Hello friends, welcome back to another video and welcome back to a book video. It has been a very long time since I have properly talked books. I add a lot of book content randomly into my vlogs and just talk to you about what I'm reading each week, but it has been a very long time since I have just talked about all the books I've read lately. So I decided today was the day and I wanted to talk about all the books I've read so far this year because I have been loving reading this year. Mainly because if you don't know, I read on my Kindle a lot and I am now breastfeeding a little girl. So I have a lot more time to read, which is amazing. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Kirsty, I'm 26, I live in Adelaide. I live with my beautiful little family. I have a toddler Harper, a beautiful little newborn Marley, a handsome Kelpie Ziggy, and a lovely husband Hayden. I don't know, she's gonna wake up. I basically just vlog my life and then I love adding in a few extra videos of just other things that interest me, whether that's mum content, book content, cloth nappy stuff, just anything. I am doing a whole series. I'm starting on like my postpartum health and exercise and stuff like that, and like what I'm eating postpartum and how I'm exercising postpartum, all those sorts of things as well. If any of that interests you, feel free to check out my channel. But if you're just here for books, let's chat. So far this year, I set a goal this year. I wanted to read 50 books. I set the same goal last year and I read about 40, I think, last year, because once I got pregnant, I could not focus, like my brain disappeared. So I've set the same goal this year. I would love to read 50 books in 2023. And so far I have read 16, so I'm 4 books ahead, which is awesome. So I don't even know where to start. Maybe I'll try and go like in order, but then also it won't fully be in order because some is a series. So I'm going to start with the Calamity Montana series. I so far have read The Bribe, The Bluff, The Brazen, I'm not sure how that's pronounced, I'm not going to lie, The Bully, The Brawl, and The Booty, which is then just a novella. And honestly, I'm obsessed with this world. I think I'm actually up to date and the next book isn't out until June or August or something like that. So I think I'm actually up to date on the Calamity Montana series. And I am just absolutely obsessed. So the first book starts with a girl called Lucy. She moves to Calamity, Montana and ends up falling for the police chief. It's a whole beautiful storyline, but basically all of the books in the Calamity Montana series are incredible and they all then intertwine. So although it's not a series in the way that also apologies if you can hear this crackling in the background. I've got like a fire rain thing to try and keep the baby asleep. But it's not a series in the way that like it's the same characters the whole time having different storylines or anything like that. They're all companion novels. So the first book is Lucy and she moves to Calamity, and yeah, that's her love story. And then the next is her best friend actually then moves to Calamity as well, and it's her love story. And then from there it's another couple who are involved, and it's just all of these couples in Calamity who are all intertwined. So then you see the past characters popping up in each of the stories and they're all like friends. And I just highly recommend. I've rated all of them a 4-star, except the last one I read, which was The Brawl. I have actually rated 5 stars. I loved it. I feel like they just get better and better. And just something about the way Devney Perry writes is so addictive. They're all really small books, like they're like 320 pages. You can just fly through them in a couple of days. The stories are there's always a subplot, which is quite good. I've enjoyed almost all of the subplots involved and their backgrounds and stuff like that. And then all of them have got all these different tropes. Oh, I can't even remember anymore. I get confused with which one's which because of the names are all quite similar, which I'm not a big fan of, but I've read them all on Kindle Unlimited, so I highly recommend if you have a Kindle. They're all on Kindle Unlimited. I think every book Devney Perry has written is on Kindle Unlimited, which I love. I think that's so good. If you like an author, if their books are on Kindle Unlimited, you can just literally binge their entire backlist. Which is kind of my plan with Devney Perry, especially because she's always bringing out more books. Like she is just constant. Hang on, my husband is calling. Okay, sorry, I just got cut off then because Hayden called. So I can't fully remember what I was saying other than Devney Perry is amazing and she just makes reading very enjoyable and I really enjoy her books and her like series. The next book that I have, next book I started reading this year, I listened actually as an audiobook, was Raising Girls Who Like Themselves. Now obviously this will be a very niche market quick-witted people who this is a recommendation for, but honestly, I absolutely devoured this. I loved it. It had some really good insight on things that we can say and do to improve our daughters' self-esteem and make them strong, confident women in a world where, you know, we still don't get paid the same as men, we still have different expectations to men, and it was just incredible and I loved it. So anyone who is interested in a parenting book, especially if you have a little girl or multiple little girls, I highly recommend. Then I read Wish You Were Here by Renee Carlino. This I rated like a 3.5 stars. I did enjoy it. It was a good book. It was quite short. I think it was like less than 300 pages, and it was, yeah, I don't know, it was just good. It is about a girl called Lucy, and she sort of doesn't really know what she's doing with her life. She's feeling very, like, jumps from job to job. She's in her late 20s and just feels like everyone else has got it together except her, and, you know, she's never really committed to anything for that long, and she's just not feeling like overly inspired or anything. And she meets this guy while she's out and has like one night with him and sort of falls for him, basically. So yeah, has this like insane connection. It's a bit insta-lovey in that aspect, and they sleep together, and then she never hears from him again. And then you sort of watch her go through the next few months, and she meets this other guy and sort of likes him quite a lot, and they start dating, and yeah, he's really sweet. He's sort of like a really good guy. And then she ends up getting like finding this other guy again because she never got his number or anything, and literally he like disappeared. She never knew where he went, and she ended up having communication with him again, and it ends up this whole thing. So there was, yeah, that was really, really interesting, like how they found each other again. But it was a bit weird then that she sort of like goes back to this guy to find out if there's anything there, whilst also kind of seeing this other guy. Like, it's kind of a bit messy, but it was really good, and I read it really quickly and did really enjoy it. But yeah, the only thing that I found a bit like cringe was that she only had one night with him, and he really like stuck with her. But yeah, a really good story. I really enjoyed it. I do highly recommend it. Yeah, I'd say like a 3.5 to 4 star read. So like not the best ever, like not my favorite. I feel like very few books get a 5 star from me. Like they've got to be absolutely incredible and like with no flaws for me to rate it 5 stars these days. So like a 3.5 to 4 star is still really, really good. Then I read I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy. Again, this I listened to via audiobook, which I loved because she was the one reading it. Like it was like she was just telling us a story of her life, and I really enjoyed it. I found it very, I feel like good's the wrong word because it's like sad and like not a nice upbringing that she had, but I found it very interesting and I was very captivated and like enjoyed listening to it. So I highly recommend that, especially if you're looking for like a biography, memoir sort of book. It was very interesting. Then Jasper Vale came out, which is another Devaney Perry book. It is the 4th book in the Edens, and I loved it. It was a bit spicier than some of her other ones. I'm like not one who loves smut in books, to be completely honest, especially because I'm often like breastfeeding whilst it's happening, so I'm like not in the mood to be reading stuff like that. But other than that, it was an incredible book. I really, really loved that series by Devaney Perry as well. If you have watched my 23 books I want to read in 2023 video that I did in December last year, the Eden series was actually on that list, and I ended up reading all of them in December before the new year even started. But now I have read the one that has come out this year, which was Jasper Vale. It was amazing. Jasper and what was the sister's name? This one is about Eloise. Eloise owns the hotel in their town. I can't remember what their town's called now, to be completely honest. Oh, Quincy. So if you don't know what the Edens are, it is a small town romance series, same as Calamity Montana in the aspect that they're not an ongoing series, but all of the books are standalone books, but they all center around the siblings who are the Edens. So the Edens family, there's a bunch of siblings, and each of those siblings gets a different book, and it's their story. So this one is about Eloise. She owns the hotel in Quincy, and she goes to like a weekend in Vegas and ends up getting married to Jasper. Now it's like, yeah, marriage of convenience, very, very interesting, and then they come back and obviously they're just like married. So it was like a drunken thing that they got married in Vegas. So I loved it. The love story was beautiful. I just really love the Edens as well. Small town romance vibes, all connected. Like I love hearing about then all the other members of the family throughout. Like we still see all of the other family members that we have met in the other books and like their kids and stuff, and it's just beautiful. So I highly recommend. I think I gave that a 4.5 stars or a 4 stars. I flew through it, loved it, devoured it. The next book I read was Magnolia Park by by Jessa Hastings. Now this comes highly recommended from the one and only Rachel Catherine, and it's also a very controversial book. So it's basically Gossip Girl in book form set in London. So it was, I don't know how to explain Magnolia Park, and I don't even know if I enjoyed it or not because it's so toxic, like absolutely crazy. And I'm definitely like invested and I now want to read the next one, but I feel like the writing to me was weird. And I'm sorry, Rachel. I know this is like your favorite book in the whole world, but I found the writing interesting. I don't know. It was like they were talking about what was happening and then they were suddenly talking to me. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but I did enjoy it and I was very invested, and I found the like second half really good. And yeah, I'm definitely going to keep reading the series, but I honestly couldn't even tell you what I rated it because so much of it I hated, but then I loved so much of it as well. But what I did hate is the fact that she is like a fashion person and knows what everyone's wearing is awesome. That's great. But I don't care what people are wearing. Every scene she like tells us these fancy designer names for all of these clothes and bags and shoes of brands that I've never even heard of because they're so expensive. Like, I don't care. So that like really annoyed me. But other than that, it was a very interesting story. So it's based around Magnolia and her on and off boyfriend BJ. Basically, when we meet her, they're not together because this big thing happened, but then they spend every night together, but they don't have sex, but they see each other every day and they're like best friends, but then they're both still in love with each other, but she can't trust him, and yeah, there's all this like juicy tea basically, and they're all just very dramatic, very rich girl problems, you know, they've got jets and it's very dramatic. And yeah, I honestly don't even know if I would recommend it or not. If you really like toxic, juicy, gossipy vibes, then go for it. It is good, but also their relationship is kind of absolutely disgusting. So take with that what you will. I then moved on to something that was really sweet, and that was Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I liked it so much that I bought it, the physical copy. I read it on Kindle Unlimited, so then I was like, well, I can buy it because I haven't spent money on it. So I read this. I actually started reading this last year, and the first few chapters I really didn't like because they kept calling girl's sister an evil twin sister, and I just felt like that was really childish, and so I just didn't get into it. And I saw that Lucy Score was bringing out a second one, and I thought I've got to just give it another try. So I did, and I ended up devouring it. I think because it's quite chunky, it was intimidating to me. It's like 500 pages, and that for me is like quite a big book. I don't read big books very often. I read 300-page books and that's me done. Whereas this was 500 pages, felt like a lot. But if you don't know what this is about, which would shock me because I feel like everyone on the internet has spoken about it since the second one has come out. It is about a girl called Naomi who goes into the small town at Knockamout to basically try and help her sister. Her twin sister has called her asking for help. She gets there, her twin sister then steals her car, and we don't see her for like basically the rest of the book. Turns out that she has a daughter, so Naomi has a niece that she didn't know about, and so she stays to look after this 11-year-old daughter, niece. And then obviously there's some romance in there, and then there's also like a bit of a mystery subplot because none of them know where Tina the twin has gone, and like the niece, then obviously there's like a lot of drama there because she's just been like abandoned by her mum. And yeah, Naomi is trying to like figure out this life of like helping this niece who she didn't even know existed, who was 11. And then yeah, this like weird romance thing. It's like enemies to lovers in that aspect. Like he's kind of a dick, and then they obviously fall in love, and there's all these other side characters which are amazing. I think that's one thing I really love quite often about small town romances is there's always like amazing side characters. And yeah, I ended up really enjoying this. I gave it a 4.5 stars and just absolutely devoured it in the end. Then I read Atomic Habits, and I listened to this as an audiobook as well. I'm really trying to focus on doing a few non-fiction books this year and doing like a lot of self-development and self-improvement, and I loved it. I have incorporated a few things into my life and I'm feeling the benefits of it already. So if you haven't read Atomic Habits, I highly recommend. It was really good. Audio form, again, was really a nice way to digest it. I do have the physical copy too because he talks about the graphs and stuff quite often. Like there's different visuals in the book that he then says like you can download them at atomichabits.com/whatever. So it was nice to then be able to actually look at the things he was talking about too because I had the physical copy. I then read The Cousins by Karen M. McManus. I know that her most popular book is like One of Us is Lying, and I think there's a series there and they're really good. It was a YA mystery and I really enjoyed it, to be honest. It was quite fast paced. very YA, like very quick and easy to digest. If you're wanting something not romance, I do highly recommend. I really enjoyed it. It was kind of Inheritance Games vibes. So Millie basically gets this letter and it is inviting her and her cousins to work on an island where her grandma lives and like basically owns most of the island because she's a very rich lady. Now the drama is that she had disinherited all of her children, so these cousins, like the grandkids, had never even met their grandmother basically, and they get this letter inviting them to go and work there for the summer pretty much. Basically the parents sort of don't talk to each other anymore. There was 4 parents. One of them they haven't seen in like years and years and years, and then the other 3 just don't really have a relationship anymore since they all got disinherited. No one knows why they were cut from the will and like cut off, and yeah, you basically just find out what the reasoning for all of that is. So very interesting, nice and something different. I really like something a little bit different every now and then than romance. It was very fast paced, very YA, but I did thoroughly enjoy it. So I highly recommend. I gave that a 4 stars as well. Had a lot of 4 stars this year. I then listened to She's on the Money by Tori Devine. As I said before, I'm trying to do some self-improvement, making sure I'm getting those non-fiction books in as well as fiction, and I really enjoyed it. I don't know what kind of star rating I would give that kind of book because it's like self-development, but I did really enjoy it, so I highly recommend. I then picked up Things We Hide from the Light, so the second book in the Knock 'Em Out series, and then I bought it as well because I really liked it. Again, this was a huge book. This is like 600 pages for a romance. Like that is huge. But again, I really enjoyed it. This story was then focusing on the brother of the love interest in this one. So the love interest in this one, he owns a bar and his brother is the police chief. So then this one focuses on his love story with Lena, and I really liked it. It was very similar in the end. Like they sort of had the same. It was a bit of a bummer because this one, Nash is supposed to be like the good guy and he was the real like nice guy in this book compared to Knox, who was like grumpy. Like this was Grumpy Sunshine vibes, and this I thought was going to be different to that because Nash was such a sweetheart in the first book, but there's an incident at the end of the first book which is like the leeway into this book. Like he is then dealing with the outcome of that, and so he's kind of grumpy too, which was a bit of a bummer. Like I was hoping he was going to be the sweet romantic guy that we saw in the first book, but he sort of was like dealing with a lot, and like I don't know, so that was a bit weird. But I really like the mystery subplot in this too because he has to figure some stuff out, and I really enjoyed that. Their love was a little bit too physical for my likings. Like a lot of the comments about each other were just about them wanting to rip each other's clothes off and stuff, which again isn't like my favorite, but I did really enjoy this. And there were some really good moments, and Knox and Naomi from the first book were in this heaps, which I really enjoyed because we definitely got to just like keep seeing them and their relationship flourish, which was nice. And then there's also a 3rd book of these coming out soon too, but like look how chunky that is. That is intense. So I feel like these books could be intimidating because they are just very big and chunky. Wow. But I really enjoyed that as well. Gave that about a 4 stars. And then the last book I read was another book from the Calamity Montana series. So that is all of the books I have read so far this year. I feel like I have been talking forever, so big apologies that was the longest video ever, I feel like. But yeah, that's how my reading has gone this year. I've pretty much liked all of the books I've read, which has been amazing. There hasn't been any book less than like 3 stars, so I love that for me, and I'm very, very excited for the rest of the reading year. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Please let me know what you have been reading this year, what's on your TBR for next month, and depending on how many books I read in the next 3 months will depend on when I do another book video. I feel like last year trying to do a wrap up a month wasn't like enough. Like I didn't read enough books in that month for it to be worth it. But this 3-month one, I feel like I've read too many books to talk about. But then booktubers all the time are reading like 20 books in a month and they can do a video a month. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, what you would prefer, if you want me to do monthly updates or if quarterly is good. I don't know. I do really want to do like some readathons and stuff like that and like reading vlogs, but we will see how we go. I do have 2 children under 2, so any content I can get out is a win. So I'm gonna wrap this up because I just can't stop talking, but thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you in my next video, which will be very soon. Bye.